What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rovardo, and today we are Jackson Dart days away from kickoff. Yeah, that's right. The New York Giants play a regular season football game in just 6 days. Happy Labor Day to everybody. Just hopping on here for a quick episode. Want to say what's up to you guys and just kind of look ahead to the season since we're in the home stretch here before it kicks off and give you guys another one of these optimistic videos because there's been a lot of optimism on this channel recently. You guys know I'm feeling really good and positive going into the season. I'm feeling so much better about this team than I did this time last year. I feel like we could legitimately have a chance at a winning season, and I haven't felt that way in several years. I mean, even going into 2022, when we did have a winning season, that came as a shock to everybody. I would be not as shocked if the Giants had a winning season this year. So, again, not trying to get too far ahead of things and make any bold predictions for the season, although we do have a 5 bold predictions episode coming out in the coming days for you guys, which I'm excited to debut on the channel. But in the meantime, I just want to look at week 1 and a couple of the games following that we can discuss and take a look at how this schedule, which was described as the hardest in the NFL going into 2025, is already starting to ease up a little bit for the New York Giants. So, first of all, starting with week 1 versus Washington. Now, this is going to be a fun matchup because it's a division rival opponent on the road for the Giants, debuting a new quarterback. There are so many storylines to cling to in this one. But on the Washington Commanders side of things, there's a couple of key storylines for Giants fans to keep an eye on that might give you some hope that the Giants can start their season off 1-0. First and foremost, this summer, Terry McLaurin was holding in and holding out. He didn't practice with the team pretty much at all for the entirety of the summer. And there was a quote recently from Washington Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury where he kind of talked about this and said they haven't been able to run their offense properly all summer long. They haven't been able to get proper practice reps in. They haven't been able to go full go here in the summer, and that they've missed Terry McLaurin, and that he's going to have some catching up to do here with Jaden Daniels. They're installing new things. Obviously, it's year 2 for this quarterback, so they're trying to build out this offense, knowing what they learned from last year. And as a result, they're trying to make some changes, but they couldn't make those changes, according to Cliff Kingsbury, as a result of Terry McLaurin not being present for the entirety of the summer. Now, if you think back to last season when the Giants played the Commanders, both of those matchups were tight. The Giants realistically should have won both of them. The first one especially in week 2 of last year. It came down to a 4th and 2. The ball went right through Malik Neighbors' hands, and then the Giants were unable to make a stop with Washington, and they lost the game. Had they converted that 4th down, they likely do get into the end zone, and they really increased their probability of winning that game there in the end of the 4th quarter. So I think that the Giants uniquely match up with Washington. When you look at this team that the Giants have built, offensively, Malik Neighbors clearly has Washington's number. He knows how to get busy in that secondary, and to be honest, I am not really too confident that they have a good secondary. I think that Malik Neighbors should have a really good outing to kick off the season, especially with Russell Wilson, a competent quarterback, finally throwing him the football. So in week 1, I feel positive in that end. And then defensively for the New York Giants, we don't necessarily match up too well with them against the run. They have a very strong run game. A new kid, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill, as he likes to be called, he looks pretty good. Jaden Daniels is a great mobile rushing quarterback, but that's where I want to say that the Giants do actually match up well with the Washington Commanders. So Jaden Daniels is such a unique and special talent for 3 reasons, I'd say. Number 1, he throws one of the prettiest deep balls that you will see in this league. Number 2, he gets the ball out of his hands really quickly, makes fast decisions, and that's really Cliff Kingsbury's design, is just making sure that that ball is coming out quick and that pressure cannot get to Jaden Daniels. And he's obviously an incredible processor, so he's able to run that offense at an efficient level. But then the third element of Jaden Daniels' game that's elite is rushing ability. His ability to make plays in and out of the pocket with his legs, scramble, play goes off script, he can make something out of nothing. He's really freaking good at that. But the way that you stop that is with a quarterback spy. And that's where I think the Giants are uniquely able to match up with Jaden Daniels, because they have not even just one, but 2 players that I think can and should be quarterback spying Jaden Daniels in week 1. Now, the first player that I'll mention is last year's standout rookie, Drew Phillips, who played really well against Washington. He was quarterback spying oftentimes against Jaden Daniels. The Giants would run their nickel and dime packages, get some extra defensive backs on the field, and Drew Phillips, being this nickel cornerback, he was oftentimes moving inside, playing in the box, almost as a safety in some ways, and then spying on Jaden Daniels. And if you remember, he did have a sack in that game because Jaden Daniels tried to scramble. Drew Phillips read it, shot through the gap, and made the play. So Drew Phillips is one of these players in this Giants defense that you will probably see, yes, matched up with the slot receiver a lot on Sunday, but you'll also see him matched up in man on Jaden Daniels, and he's uniquely positioned to be successful in that regard. So again, I keep hitting that word unique because let's talk about the second guy who's going to be spying Jaden Daniels. This is one of the most unique athletes in the NFL. This is Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter is going to do a lot for this Giants defense. He's going to wear many hats and he's going to play many different roles, and he's also going to align in many different positions. That's Abdul Carter. We've been talking about it all summer, and I know you're all just really excited 6 days from now to finally see this kid take the field and get after the quarterback. But he's not just going to be getting after the quarterback, is the point that I'm going to make here. Abdul Carter is an elite pass rusher. He proved that this final season that he had in college, totaling 24 tackles for loss and 12 sacks, being named the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. He was the best defensive player in all of college football, and he was the best defensive player in the 2025 draft class, and he fell into the Giants' lap with the number 3 overall pick. And now, when you take a look at what he can apply to this Giants defense, it is edge rushing. He'll be listed as an edge rusher. He'll primarily play that 5-tech edge rusher position, maybe even that wide 9. He'll line up over the tackles and he will beat them up and get after the quarterback in that way. He'll play QB contain as well for when Jaden Daniels is scrambling. However, what else did we see from Abdul Carter this summer? An ability to go from playing that edge rusher position to the interior defensive line, playing more of a quote-unquote defensive end position, a 3-tech, if you will, if you want to get specific about it. He can line up over the guard. He can line up between the guard and the center if he wants. He can line up between the guard and the tackle. He really can move all over the place because he has a rare combination of size, strength, and speed that allows him to match up on any of the 5 offensive linemen. But the other element to his game that we probably haven't discussed enough all summer long leading into the season, he was originally an off-ball linebacker. Yeah, he was a great player at Penn State before he was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. In 2024, he became an elite force. In 2023, he still was a really good linebacker. He wasn't an edge rusher. He didn't primarily line up over the tackle and get after the quarterback. He didn't primarily line up as an interior defensive lineman and get after the quarterback. He lines up in the center of the defense, and what he did oftentimes was play some zone coverage, play some man coverage, and play those quarterback spies. Abdul Carter is one of the most freakish, athletic linebackers in the NFL as a rookie. He will be one of those players from day one because of the rare tools and traits that he possesses athletically. And that gives the Giants the ability to match up with Jaden Daniels. So, like I said, in this episode, I'm trying to look at the first month or so of the season and preview why I'm optimistic about the Giants getting off to a strong start. But Week 1 is obviously the main focus, so I want to devote the most time there and really pay attention to this and kind of do a game preview like I am right now, giving you guys the Giants' defense's perspective against Jaden Daniels, because you can't stop Jaden Daniels. He's one of the best players in the NFL, but you can slow him down if you have a couple of key pieces in your defense, and that's what the Giants have. They do have a young nickel cornerback who can play that quarterback spy, and they have Abdul Carter, the number 3 overall pick in the draft. He can go sideline to sideline and keep up with a guy like Jaden Daniels, believe it or not. And he can get after Jaden Daniels on a down-to-down basis, with it, whether he's in a 2-point stance, a 3-point stance, or a 4-point stance. Doesn't matter where you put him, he'll get after the QB. But it's that ability to play linebacker that not enough people have discussed. The Giants, they've tried to keep it under wraps, but they have had him playing a little bit of off-ball linebacker during training camp team drills. They just didn't have him do it in the preseason. I don't think they want to tip their hat. I don't think they want to expose one of the wrinkles of their defense on film leading into the regular season, because I think in Week 1, Giants versus Commanders, you will probably see a lot of quarterback spying from Abdul Carter, and that could result in him getting that first sack and that first haircut on Jaden Daniels this week. So I'm really excited for that, and I think when you look at this Week 1 matchup, yes, the Commanders are on paper, especially looking at last year, the better football team. They have what you could argue a top 3 quarterback in the NFC in Jaden Daniels. You could probably make that argument, and I'm sure many of you will. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback in the league, and he really is one of the best young players in the entirety of the NFL, regardless of position. So it's going to be a tough one for the Giants, but they've got to get used to these tough ones because they play in a great division that has this kid, Jaden Daniels, and has the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. This is a great first test for the Giants to kick off their season on the road against Jaden Daniels and the division rival Commanders, and I'm really excited to see how this unfolds. But that's the X factor in this game is Abdul Carter's ability to track down Jaden Daniels as a quarterback spy. Now, the other wrinkle in this game for the Giants to expose also has to do with their pass rush. Sam Cosmi is not going to play. That's the right guard, a very talented right guard for the Washington Commanders. With him out of the lineup, who benefits? Once again, Abdul Carter, because the Giants like to move him inside a lot, and he's going to match up against the backup right guard, and he's going to pressure Jaden Daniels. And when you get that pressure through the interior, that's when Jaden Daniels has to step back or step to the side. And if you're playing quarterback contained properly with your Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, you can run him into sacks by flushing him out through the middle of the pocket. So Dexter Lawrence is also in line for a huge game going up against a poor interior offensive line. And that's why, even though the Commanders might be the better team on paper, this Giants team specifically has those two wrinkles in their defense that should allow them to slow down Jaden Daniels better than the rest of his opponents this season and potentially pull off the upset underdog win. So I hope that I convinced you guys. I'm really excited for this game. I do think the Giants have a great shot at starting the season 1-0, but I am not going to end this episode here. That was a 10-minute preview on how the Giants defense can slow down Jaden Daniels, but how about going into week 2? Now you're facing a Dallas Cowboys team without Micah Parsons, and I read a report this morning, Trayvon Diggs, their Pro Bowl cornerback, he is probably not playing until week 4. So now you've got their best cover man and their best player off of that team. There's a lot for the Giants defense to match up with. They've got to go against a combo of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and a very experienced quarterback in Dak Prescott, who, yes, has gotten the better of the Giants every single season of his career, essentially, minus 2016, I think. But when you look at this Giants defense and this Cowboys defense and their weaknesses, the Giants have an opportunity to expose Dallas in week 2. With no Micah Parsons, this offensive line should be able to hold up. Their defensive pass rush doesn't have anything going for it at this point. It's a weak unit. Their secondary is injured and has holes in it. Week 2 is the week that you should anticipate those moonballs from Russell Wilson raining in. You should anticipate the Giants having more time in the pocket in week 2 and Malik Neighbors being able to get upfield and create some of those explosive chunk plays for the Giants offense. So again, looking at week 1, Giants uniquely match up against the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. Maybe they pull out the 1-0 win. Week 2, that Cowboys team is not what it was on paper last year. They are a worse football team, and they are down in the dumps now. They have a new coach, and a coach that most fans and most analysts were bewildered to see get hired because he was not the right pick for that job. So week 2, yes, on paper, strength of schedule is the hardest for the New York Giants because the Cowboys won a decent amount of games last year, but this Cowboys team is not as good as it was last year. So this is an easier matchup than the strength of schedule statistic would indicate. So week 2, also winnable. Then you go over to week 3. Who are they facing? The Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is going to be a tough one regardless, but one thing that the Giants have going for them, this is going to be a home opener on primetime. The buzz in the stadium is going to be ridiculous. The hype is going to be out of the roof. MetLife Stadium isn't necessarily known as a major hype zone, but when you're talking primetime season opener with a new quarterback under center, you can expect a lot of Giants fans to show up, especially if they pull out one of the two games that they're playing versus the division in the first 2 weeks of the season. And if they somehow manage to be 2-0 going into week 3, that momentum is going to carry. And that's going to carry against a Kansas City Chiefs team that will not have their best receiving weapon, Rashee Rice, who is suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season. So that Chiefs team, if you look at what they did this offseason, a lot of it was just retaining their in-house talent. They didn't get a lot of major acquisitions from out of house. So it's essentially the same team as last year. Could argue maybe even a little worse, but I know the Chiefs are going to be a tough matchup. I'm not really going to try and sell this one too much as a winnable game because this is going to be a tough one. Giants will be heavy underdogs going into week 3 versus the Kansas City Chiefs, even regardless of if they win in week 1 and week 2. I'm sure they're going to be underdogs in week 3. But again, those first 2 games to open the season are a little bit more winnable now as a result of some things. Week 3, no Rashee Rice. Giants cornerbacks have a little bit less to worry about. Maybe it becomes a little bit more winnable in that home opener. And then in week 4, it's going to tie back into the Giants pass rush. This Los Angeles Chargers team is really good. I'm very high on the Chargers. Many of you probably know if you've been watching the channel for a while that I have a sister who lives out in LA. So when I'm not rooting for the New York Giants, I'm rooting for the LA Chargers. I like watching them. I think Justin Herbert's really fun to watch. I would never root for them over the Giants, to clarify that if any of you are trying to jump at my neck. But if the Giants are eliminated from the playoffs, I usually turn to the Chargers as being my hopeful Super Bowl team, even though that's never happened and probably won't for a while. But hey, this is a good Chargers team, and they do have a chance of being a deep playoff running team, but their chances of that happening have been weakened by the loss of Rashawn Slater. Rashawn Slater tore his knee. He is out for the year, and that is going to open up an opportunity here for this Giants pass rush to get home in week 4, pressure Justin Herbert, and hopefully sneak out a week 4 home upset win. It's a home game. Yes, the Chargers are really good. Their quarterback is amazing, in my opinion. But this pass rush has an opportunity here to disrupt him and hopefully tip the scale in their favor. And then in week 5, we're talking about the New Orleans Saints. That team has gotten infinitely worse than they were last year, and they were already bad. They do not have a quarterback worth a damn. Their quarterback room is actually just kind of embarrassing. And honestly, that whole entire team is embarrassing. So if the Giants are 0-4 going into week 5 versus the Saints, that should be their first win of the season. And if it isn't, we are looking at the number 1 overall pick. But that's not going to happen, and I'm telling you that definitively. In the first 5 weeks of the season, I think that the Giants will have at least 3 wins. I don't know where they come from. I don't know if they get the upset win in week 1, 2, 3, or 4. I don't know which one of those they drop, but I think they're winning 3 of those games in the first 5 weeks of the season, including that one against the New Orleans Saints. And hey, if they are 3-2 going into Philadelphia on Thursday night, that's going to be a fun one, man. That'll be a home game on Thursday night in week 6, but that'll be a fun one. Obviously, they've got Denver after that, then Philadelphia. The schedule is tough. It doesn't have many breaks, but like I said, it's a week-to-week league, and the first 5 weeks of the season, if you looked at them on paper 3 months ago, they are much tougher than what they are today. And that's the point that I'm trying to make as I wrap up this episode. It is a week-to-week league. Yes, the Giants have the toughest strength of schedule. It is a very hard and difficult schedule for the Giants to play, especially coming off of a 3-14 season. But the schedule you're looking at now is going to inevitably change and be altered over the course of the season, and there will be opportunities present for the Giants to win some games. So the whole message of this video is week to week. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, but know that it's a week-to-week league and that the Giants will have chances to win games this year, and this is a much better New York Giants football team than it was last year, so I anticipate that they will win some of these games. The Vegas line is 5.5 for them. I think it's too low. This defense is too good to win only 4 games or 5 games this season, and that offense should at least be average. If you have a top 10 defense and an average offense, you should be able to win 7 to 9 games in a regular season in the NFL. That's how it works. And so I'm pretty excited because I think this Giants team, I don't know if it's going to be a world beater. I wouldn't count on that, but is it going to be competent? I think that it will be. It's got a couple of things that need to fall into place, but a couple of things have fallen into place so far here as we look at the schedule in the first month of the season. So really excited, guys. Stay tuned for this weekend. We've got a lot of coverage all week. We've got so much great coverage coming out leading up to this week 1 matchup versus the Washington Commanders. I cannot wait for that game, and I know all of you are excited as well. So make sure you drop your hype down below in the comment section. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Football Giants.
Perfect.